Chapter Approved Nephilim is out tomorrow, brothers, so let's finish out the season of Chapter Approved Nachmund with another first place finish by Sam Procopio again, this time at the Grinning Demon Series GT. Let's get straight into his list. We actually had Sam on the channel for a bit of an interview just a few weeks ago. If you haven't seen that video, I'll link it at the end of this one, so you can definitely check it out. And a lot of people actually said it was one of the best Blood Angels videos that I've done this year, so it's definitely worth checking out as we go into the new season. Let's check out his list then, and also his placement. So this was a GT with 6 games, and Sam scored 533 battle points, so it's a very respectable score for the 6 wins. Some lists that came in second and third scored slightly higher, but they were Harlequins and Tyranids, and we are hopefully going to see the end of the Tyranid domination as we move into the new Nephilim book. The crazy fact in this Tyranids list is he just went 5 games when he scored 100 points. Tyranids are so difficult to play against right now. Okay, so let's check out Sam's list, and he starts with 2 relics of the chapter, and in some ways I would say this list is about 80% similar to the list he won a GT with maybe 6 months ago at this point. I think it was January actually, yeah, so almost 6 months ago. And you can obviously check out that list on the playlist on the channel. I pretty much try and cover every tournament winning list by Blood Angels through BCP or any time anyone submits it. So we'll continue to do that because I feel like there's a lot of value in looking at the strongest lists, and also maybe you can use some inspiration to build your next tournament list. So when I talked to Sam, he liked the Voidsmen. He thinks they're a great unit. He runs 5 of them coming in at 48 points, and then the Sergeant as well. So it's a 6-man squad because they're 8 points per model, and that lets them essentially perform some actions very reliably. We have the Chapter Master, and Sam runs this with Rites of War to add Obsec, and Visage of Death to deny Obsec, an Infernal Pistol and a Relic Blade to keep his cost reasonably decent. We then have a Librarian with Null Zone, and he runs Armor Indomitus. So Armor Indomitus essentially is going to give your Librarian, who used to not be that survivable, he's now, I guess, saving on 2 up, ignoring 1 AP. He has the 5 wounds, which is nice. He has the jump pack, so he's mobile. And with Null Zone and Psychic Fortress, I mean, I guess it gives the ability to give an aura of 5 up against, for stuff like Sanguinary Guard or Death Company. And also, the Null Zone doesn't affect our units, the Sanguinary Guard and Death Company, in any negative way. I mean, we don't have invulnerable saves. Previously, I think this Librarian used to almost be a suicide Librarian, and if you want to use Null Zone effectively, you maybe had to, give up his life. That might not be the case anymore. And we then run the Sanguinary Priest with the Teeth of Terra and the Selfless Healer. So he's a bit of a combat Sanguinary Priest, decent at killing 2-wound models. Standard sort of troop choices of Entombing Cursors and a squad of Intercessors with alt bolt rifles. The 5-man Death Company with 3 Thunder Hammers. And recently I've been running 4. I think I prefer running 4 over 3, but I mean, Sam just won a GT with us, so let's not mock it. He can obviously put them in Assault Doctor and early, make his Forlorn Fury charge if he needs to. We get 3 squads of Sanguinary Guard with an emphasis on swords, and swords are probably the better pick right now, especially into Armour of Contempt choices. Axes are still decent against a lot of other armies, but if you're coming up against an Armour of Contempt army, then swords definitely going to have the edge for you. And we're seeing so many more Blood Angels lists now pushing towards the 3 squads of Sanguinary Guard. We've kind of gone full circle. Ever since Armour of Contempt came out, Sanguinary Guard, I guess, have just essentially become one of our most powerful units. They're essentially on a 2-up save, ignoring all 1 point of AP, which is kind of just the equivalent of, it's essentially a 1-up save, isn't it? So you have to hit them with -2 to just put them on a 3-up, and if they're in cover, -2, they're still going to be saving on 2s. They're very durable. Combo them with a Sanguinary Priest, and you potentially can bring some back. It's a great unit. Obviously, it can heroically intervene. I'm hoping for a points cost on Sanguinary Guard. I still think they're too expensive if you compare them up against something like Woven that get to fight on death, but let's see what happens. Points cost will about literally the day after I make this video, I think. Sam likes to run a squad of scouts, which he keeps in his Landspeeder Storm. And then we have 1 squad of sniper rifles, or snipers, bolt eliminators with bolt sniper rifles. Previously, Sam was actually running the Las Fuso guys, so he's changed this. And now he's running some heavy metal eradicators with multi-meltas. And eradicators, again, I think they're a unit that's benefited a lot from Armor of Contempt. If you can get them in cover and you can sit them there, they can essentially be saving on 2s, ignoring 1 point of AP, they're toughness 5, and they do get a decent amount of melt shots every turn. So personally been running eradicators myself, and I've actually added more Sanguinary Guard myself. So both of these things are changes to Sam's last list, and obviously you can check that out. I'll put another link at the end of the video to his other list. Okay, his Chapter Master granting and removing Obsec. His Librarian with a 2-up save, great mobility, and null zone. His Priest with the Teeth of Terror to grind enemy infantry. He's got the 3 solid troop choices. He's got those 4 strong jump pack units, the 1 Death Company and 3 Sanguinary Guard. The Death Company can fall on Fury every game if he needs it. 3 Sanguinary Guard are just popping up all the time. He still has 220 points of heavy support, so a bit of Eradicators and a bit of Eliminators. I still think there's some value in having some heavy support in a Blood Angels list. Getting the balance right is important, but there's definitely still some play around it. The Scouts and Landspeeder can flood units into the enemy deployment zone if they want to, and the Voidsmen are a very cheap scoring unit. Arguably the cheapest scoring unit since, I guess, Servitors got made a bit worse, I think. But who knows what's going to change with the secondaries for this new book, so maybe Servitors could be back. Maybe Company Veterans could be back, let's see, but Voidsmen are definitely a cheap scoring unit. I'm actually working on a conversion of some Voidsmen for myself at the moment. So strengths and weaknesses. He's got a strong melee threat. 21 Sanguinary Guard, being able to be in the Assault Doctrine pretty much for the entire game, being able to reroll hits, get +1 to hit, be able to null zone the enemies with high AP. It's very good, right? The removal of invulnerables and the Librarian being more survivable or being able to be protected now by those Sanguinary Guard is pretty cool. The Obsec Presence and Denial is definitely a good way to swing points, score points, however you want to look at it. You've got the 6 units that can perform actions very reliably because you've basically got 6 units that can do Nachman data 100% of the time, and you've got another few that could do other actions or Nachman data unreliably. It's a very mobile list that can trade very well. There's very few times a Sanguinary Guard won't be able to trade up. There's very few times a Death Company won't be able to trade up, and they're mobile enough where typically they can use their speed to make the charges into the enemy. We also have those nuisance units, such as the Landspeeder Storm or the Eliminators. We don't see Sniper Eliminators all that much, but I mean, a couple of Sniper Rifles, they're not bad into Toughness 4 characters. They could just be a nuisance, and I think that's what they are. They can hold an objective, they can be a nuisance, they can be difficult to shift because the Eliminators in cover are essentially on a 1-up save with ignoring AP1, so they're kind of on a 0-up save, so you need to hit them with -3 just to get them on a 3. It's very decent as well. His weakness in this list, I guess, no fight last, and there's a low amount of 3 damage weapons, but I think that's just offset by 21 Sanguinary Guard. I've been seeing less and less problems into -1 damage enemies. Now, the only enemy that I'm really scared of with -1 damage potentially could have been Mortarion, because you can turn off rerolls, and Sanguinary Guard only wound him on a 4, Sanguinary Guard only do 1 damage. But we just don't see Death Guard players play Mortarion. There's too many other armies that can delete Mortarion in 1 turn, and I mean, actually with Null Zone we can probably delete Mortarion pretty effectively as well, because we could instantly make him save on 6s. You probably need to commit maybe 2 units of Sanguinary Guard to do it, but if you kill him in 1 turn, then that's probably worth it. So no fight last is a weakness, and lack of 3 damage weapons is probably not a weakness in this list. Whereas normally when I talk about lists, I would say that lack of 3 damage weapons could be perceived as a weakness. Right, thoughts on scoring. This is pretty much the exact same as his last list. He had the Rites of War, he had the Visage of Death, and he had 3 troop choices. This time he's got 2 Phobos units. And miraculously my slide has just fixed itself to say that I definitely didn't use his old slides and just make some tweaks. Anti-infantry horde effectiveness. Now, he had more firepower in his last list, so I've taken this down 0.5 point. He does have more bolter shots, but I think the way you play Sanguinary Guard here is you obscure them and then you jump out. So he's probably not going to be able to shoot all those bolter shots. So I think his anti-horde is actually weaker. His anti-vehicle, I think, has pretty much stayed the same. While he's lost some 3 damage units, he has picked up Null Zone, and he has essentially got more Sanguinary Guard. He's got some high power Malthifier in there, which replaced some Inceptors over his last list. So I think this is just as good. And I think Sanguinary Guard with Null Zone are a very scary proposition. Those swords in Assault Doctrine hitting at -4. I mean, unless you've got a 2-up save, or if you're not on a 2-up save, then you're in deep shit, I guess. This list is less mobile because he's got Intercessors and those heavy Eradicators, which are definitely less mobile. But I think the only negative in this entire list, really, is that he has no fight last. And I would say that, for the most part, Blood Angels are mobile enough to get round having no fight last. Now, there are some armies that are very mobile that can deal good damage against us. One of which I think would be Drukhari, which we aren't seeing as much right now. And the other thing might be Tyranids with like some of their more fast beasts. But again, that's not really what we're seeing from Tyranids right now. So I'm going to rate. I rated his specialization. I put up 1.5 points. So he actually scores 45 out of 50 on this list for me. His previous tournament winning list scored 44.5. So is this just a victim of what has changed in the last few months? But regardless, I think it is a very, very strong list. I think if you're not running 3 squads of Sanguinary Guard, well, who knows? Everything could change tomorrow. But if Sanguinary Guard go down in points, which I kind of think they might, there was a rumour saying that they might, it might now be the time to invest in 3 times 7-man squads of Sanguinary Guard. I've personally been running 1/7 and 1/6, and I like it. But I was very much on the fence if I should take a 3rd. And this is maybe a problem with our Blood Angels Codex, and this is maybe a problem with Sanguinary Guard in general, why they went up points at the beginning of the edition, is our Codex wasn't brilliant. And they tried to reduce Death Company in points, I think, to get people more excited about Death Company. But I think Sanguinary Guard just have too many benefits. Death Company have benefited a lot from Armour of Contempt. I have found them a lot more survivable in the games that I've been playing with them, and I typically don't use Refusal to Die. But I think Sanguinary Guard are just so good at trading, and it makes sense to have that one Death Company to trade in turn 1 with the Furlong Fury, and then after that, once you've moved forward, you can start trading Sanguinary Guard. You can actually hide them off objectives and heroically intervene in. There's just so much plays around them. And they combo really, really nicely with all 3 characters on this list. Actually buff the hell out of the Sanguinary Guard. Big shout out to Sam for winning another tournament. I did say if you haven't seen the video where I got Sam on the channel and interviewed him, then you can definitely check out here. And in that video, there's actually a link to Sam's YouTube channel as well. So you can definitely check him out. He's just started his YouTube and he's making videos on his tournament season and how he's been doing and what he's been running into, so he's definitely worth checking out. Thank you again so much for watching, guys. I'm going to have a video on the tournament that I just played coming in the very near future, trying to break down how I did well, and then there's going to be loads of content coming out around the new book. So if you're not subscribed yet, I would love it if you would hit that big red subscribe button, and remember there is a bell next to the subscribe button. Hit that bell, and then whenever I put up a new video, you'll get a notification on your phone or whatever tablet or device you have to let you know, so you won't miss any of the new content. You're definitely going to not want to miss it. And then finally, if you want to support this channel, there's a link in the video description below. You can either become a channel member or you can join us on Patreon for the price of arguably less than a cup of coffee. You know what? I was at Starbucks this week and it cost me literally £4.50 for a decaf. So yeah, for less than the price of a cup of coffee, your support is really appreciated. And it does mean if you ever want to submit an army list to me for the army list show that goes out of every Sunday night, then you will get priority in the queue. And as a new book comes out and new rules come out, you'll need priority in that queue because I get so many list submissions and it'd be impossible for me to do them all. Anyway, enjoy your weekend, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next video. And this week, I think we're going to battle Chaos Knights on Wednesday night as a change to the regular schedule. By the blood are we made strong, brothers. Peace.